A lot going on right now, everything from news about the A5X2. Some of you may have seen earlier this week that Vlad Kostek posted information on FCC filings, and I do have some of those images that I downloaded from the website, so we can kind of walk through those. Not a lot of new information, but a lot of confirmation. So one thing being that you have this concern out there that the A5X2 is not going to launch by the end of the year. You heard us discuss that on the E-Team discussion that we had last weekend. Roderick kind of thinks that it's not going to come out till early next year, and he may very well be correct. I'm still hopeful that it will be this year, and I think primarily that's this FCC filing gives you that same, maybe a little bit more confidence. I know an FCC filing can be a year out or longer, but with them having released the information they did, talked about the on ramping and what they were hoping to have production done by the end of this year, I think that's going to hopefully get them moving in the right direction. Let's just put it that way. But I do want to jump over really quick and jump into the screen share. One thing that's nice and really cool about this FCC filing, which was posted on Reddit and then was deleted. So I'm not sure if the user deleted that or if Supernote moderated that out. And to be fair, the link that it sent you to initially was very much ad ridden, and I think it was kind of a site that looked for FCC filings, but then you could also dig deeper and find it on the FCC website as well. You can see here that there are things we knew. You knew you would have a tool, you knew you'd have your charging cable with the up top charging port. This gives you some dimensions, and it shows you for it shows you some different angles. Nothing new really here as far as dimensions. We had seen this before, and Vlad's video does a really good job of digging into the specs. One thing that I think is kind of nice about this is going to be it shows that side view. Yep, right here at the beginning. You can see here that you've got those pogo pins, what it appears to be right here in the middle. You've got the mechanical latches for the half folio, or what some of us believe may end up being a full folio design that's coming soon. So again, a lot of possibilities here. The pogo pins really open up for getting kind of a lot of attachments that could be added to this device. You can see the pin loop, which is again mechanically attached. You can also see power button here and the on top charging port. And that's where it kind of got that man array design language they talked about. Again, that is not an official name of the device. It's not even an official nickname, I don't think. And then here you can see these pin loops. And right here you can make out, I don't know if I can get that in closer, but there was some confusion over whether or not these would be regular screws. And from my understanding, it looks like they are. This to me looks like a Phillips head screwdriver slot would go into that, and you'd be able to remove this and replace it with a different color, a different style, leave it off entirely depending on what you're using it for. If you're in an office environment and don't have anything major going on as far as a need for a folio, you just are going from office to office, meeting to meeting, you may have carpeted flooring, whatever have you, or it just sits on your desk. Since they've added these rubber feet that I know both Rod over the weekend, last weekend, was talking about, and I know Voya is a big fan of these. This allows you to not have to use the folio case to be able to have it stable on your desk. So if that's how you're using it, this works out really well. And I think part of it was, if you look at some other announcements on Reddit that where the chief chat officer talked about the plans surrounding the A5X2 or the A5 Slim, which was supposed to be a slimmer device and was going to kind of go after that thinnest tablet approach, maybe something in line with what the Go 10.3 or Remarkable are kind of shooting for. they were kind of looking at that. Also, I think there were just some design challenges that came with the way, and you'll notice that on these internal specs, the way the A6X2 was designed. The crystal folio being removable all the way around created some design challenges. The other cover, I think, was better. This new cover, which is different than both of those covers, I think may be better still. And we can kind of talk about that. But according to the chief chat officer, what they had talked about, and one of the biggest issues they had was trying to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and still maintain modularity. And I think they've opened up to where they can do a lot of different things with this design. Again, a lot of that's conjecture, but they did talk about possibly having to scrap the A5 Slim, which is why they have made this new device, this A5X2, be both slimmer than the original A5, but also still modular like the A6 X2. So I think, again, they're trying to do the best of both worlds, stay modular, but still be slim. Let's go ahead and go through the internal photos. And this is where you'll see a little bit more detail on the way this new case looks. And if you remember right, at least from what I've seen of the the A6X2 back cover for the white background. And remember, I have the crystals, so mine is going to look different. This appears to me to be kind of a hybrid in some ways. I mean, it still pops off very similarly to the white back of the A5 or the A6X2. Sorry, I keep fumbling those two, but it's contained. So it doesn't run the length of the device. You'll see here that it's actually kind of an inset, and maybe that's what they mean by bionic back. I'm not really sure. But what it allows is, although it's not completely interchangeable, it solves the button issue they had with the crystal version. It also makes sure that the components are well contained and you get that flush kind of backing, and allows those rubber feet to be there as well so that they're not removed. The A6X2 did not have that component. So you wouldn't have had they could make it basically the full length of the device. But the way they're doing this here, they're making sure that they leave for that half folio, for those mechanical elements, that those aren't all being exposed when you pull off that back cover to access the hardware. Again, some of that's conjecture, but I think it's worth talking about. You can see the pin loop a little bit better here. You can see how the battery fits into the channel and connects to the SoC, which is system on chip. And then you can see, and I'm not going to go through all of these images, but they take the whole thing apart. You can see all of the components, everything within the system on chip. I don't really want to go through all of that because I think that doesn't really add much to this conversation. The specs are going to be available. I do wonder, since they have this kind of inset instead of being the full length, if they made a cover, and Vlad Kostek alluded to this when we had our live stream last weekend, that he said, it's kind of like when you see the old cars that had the clear see-through engine covers or hoods that would go over and show you the engine. This kind of reminds me of that. So yes, you would still have this outer side here, but then you could have a clear inside to be able to see, if you really wanted to, the kind of that chrome battery pack and that chrome system on chip and your memory card, all of those things for the expandable storage. So it's kind of a neat throwback almost to something like that. But I do wonder how these rubber feet would enter into that equation if you did have a clear back here that was interchangeable, or just different colors, however you wanted to do that. It's not going to be quite as slick as the A6X2 is with that, but the idea that you could have it, and maybe these feet would protect that from rubbing against a surface and having those scuff marks that they had with the crystal. And I do believe that the crystal was hard to work with. That's why there was a back order of it. That's why there were so many issues with it. And one last thing you'll notice here is that they have some photographs of it actually set up, that you can basically see how the device looks and where it charges. I think it's more of a proof of concept for them to be able to show how this works. And to be fair, this is a lot of detail. It is things that we did not see from their initial promotional materials, but welcome news. From a business perspective, it's probably not the best way to show that. To be honest, though, I think it was really cool for Rada to take that tact, and it kind of shows that they're a little bit unconventional when it comes to their marketing methods and the way they communicate with their community. I think it's nice to see, but yeah, I can see some liability issues of having that drop test and then somebody gets the device and the first thing they do is take it up a 6-foot step ladder and drop it off on its face and it hits just right and you get a cracked screen and now you have possible litigation or warranty claims. They're not suggesting that you drop it from that height, but we all know that sometimes people do that just to test it and see, oh, well, can I replicate that? Again, I think it was cool that they put it up there. And if you look at early videos on that, whether it's mine, whether it's Vlad Kostek's, anybody who did a review at the time, you're going to see that on our videos where it still shows them dropping it from that ladder. But I do want to talk about this new goal that I mentioned earlier this week to try to hit 2,000 subscribers by my 1 year anniversary. And for those of you who don't know and haven't been around the channel as long, I started this December 9th of last year's when I put out my first trailer video, I guess you would call it. And then shortly after that, did a Rocketbook video and a couple other things. And since then, have done a lot of other stuff. But it's very important to me to, since this is growing, to kind of see where it goes. It's still a hobby. It's not a full-time thing, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying connecting with all of you, enjoying these conversations that we keep having, and hopefully we can keep that momentum up. And part of that, we're sitting right now at 1,440 subscribers. I'd love to see that hit, and it is a realistic goal based on the growth we've had to date to hit 2,000 by December 9th. So if you have friends, if you have family, if you have coworkers, point them to the channel, have them subscribe, like, kind of push us more towards the algorithm. That would be great. A couple of things to think about there. One, they're skipping the pre-order phase. They mentioned that in that same post. And I do think that there is a conversation to be had about whether they're going to be able to get this to market or not. But when they said they weren't going to take pre-orders, they said they were going to take through the holiday, which just ended on Monday in China, and they were going to start bulking up and go into high production mode. So really push the manufacturing aspect and try to get devices on hand. And they were going to go, instead of to pre-orders, straight to order. So the idea was to manufacture as many devices as they can. And since they've gone to the one model instead of the crystal versus the plastic, I think, or they're both plastic, but the crystal versus the kind of the non see-through back, I think they can probably produce these faster. And if they've got those components, I think they may be able to ramp up production and manufacturing in a quicker way. That's conjecture, but based on what they've said, that's where I see you may have that silver lining. Not saying for sure it's going to happen this year, but I do think it's possible. And then they can begin shipping almost immediately once they have enough of a supply on hand. They also mentioned already having a batch of devices produced, but they just didn't have enough to meet pent up demand. And I think we should all be a slight bit skeptical just because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what other kinds of delays they might run into, but it does appear that they are still vying to get this done as quickly as possible. And one thing you're going to notice with this new device, where it's a little different than the Go 10.3, is going to be in that it's the Mobius screen. So it's still Carta 1300, but it's plastic. That is a different feel than the glass screen. I love the A6X2. I think it's a great little device. But I do find that I still prefer the Feel-Right 2 film on the A5X over the feel of the Feel-Right 2 on the A6X2 screen which is glass. And I do think that'll be one of its best features. That and the dual side rails, and of course the modularity. But the dual side rails are huge. I love those on the A6X2. Being able to swipe to undo and redo, being able to have both my lasso and my eraser gesture and make those however I want to make them. Genius. They've done a really good job with that. I would say, do your research too. Supernote isn't right for everybody. For me, it's the device that works. It's the one that best fits my needs. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. You've seen people already in the chat talking about the Go 10.3, and it's a great device from everything I've heard. I don't want full on Android. I don't want that. I don't need that on e. It's overkill. I don't know if you all saw Morning Coach, JB Gossinger did a video on declining sales of the M4 Apple iPad and the idea that some people see it as overkill. It does too much. It has a high-end PC level chip in an iPad, and a lot of people aren't going to be doing what I'm doing with my Asus ZenBook on an iPad. And I think that's a really important thing to consider when you are thinking about the device to buy for you. If you need those Android apps, if you need, for example, Word, if you need all of that, it's very important that you consider that when you're buying one of these tablets and considering the experience that you're going to have. Because most of those devices, and Kit Betsmasters does a great job, and so does Jeffrey Moss, of showing how these different apps work with e-ink, because they're not designed or optimized for it in most cases. So you're going to have some trouble if you're using OneNote, if you're using Word, if you're using different tools. Now, if you're typing in Word, you should be fine, but there are some issues. Absolutely not. So let me address that. With the Supernote specifically, it has a combination of things which makes it unique in the e-ink space. One is it has the Feel Right 2 film, which is a rougher film that goes over the screen, but then it has a ceramic nib if you buy one of their pens. Now, you can buy any EMR stylus and it will work. Any Wacom stylus out there will work on the Supernote. So if you like a Lamy, if you like the Norris Digital Jumbo, which I have, all of those work. However, if you use the ceramic nib, it never spins. So you're never going to have to replace that unless you happen to break it or the stylus gets broken. When you mix those two things together, you get very close distance to the writing surface. And when you pull up those e-ink particles, and as a matter of fact, let me pop over because I do want to show. All right, so here I have my A6X2 and I have my A5X. Now, this is the same page on both, and this is a really good segue into the thing I was asked about. I do a lot of my blog writing on this device, specifically on the A5X, and then use the handwriting conversion to push that out as a Word document that I pull into Word because it natively can create a Word document, and then I format it. That whole process does not take a ton of time. If you do subscribe to me on Patreon, or I should say, if you do become a supporter on Patreon, I actually show the creation, this part, the raw export, the cleanup on the that I do in Word, and the finished product in the blog. So I kind of show you that full range of things. Again, just a little bit about my work style. But what I've been asked about is what the experience is like to write on here on the A6X2 and then jump over to the A5X. Now, I synced and these came over, and you'll see that my writing actually adapted because I wrote this particular blog on the A6X2. And a lot of times I think, well, I have to write this big. I really don't. I wrote at this level, and it's not quite as attractive in some ways as I feel like I write at the larger size. This is still more comfortable to me. And I think once you get the Carter 1300, it's going to be even better. But that being said, the scaling is awesome. So I write smaller here. I have to write more precise here. The handwriting recognition is actually better on the A6X2 because, again, I'm kind of being forced to write a little bit um, clearer, but when it scales, it looks better. And I don't know how to explain that. So let me pull this up, see if we can get this to focus in a little bit. And you'll see that's kind of how my writing looks. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but there it is. And then what I'll do is I'll pull this one up, and you'll see when it scales, it just, I don't know, it just looks better to me. And maybe that's just my bias. And as we all know, we all have biases. There are always going to be things that we like better depending on how we engage with what we have. But I do think it's important to note that the scaling is really good. And even if I wrote it here, I would probably write it about the size you see it here. And then when it's scaled down, it would look more like this, but it would probably look a little bit better than this does to me. So this is the standard pen. This one is a little bit more expensive, which is the Heart of Metal pen. This happens to be the Samurai pen. The nice thing about these is, people are talking about how much the styluses are on these particular devices. And I think the new Remarkable stylus, and don't quote me on this, but I've seen several reviews on it. I think some people are talking about it's close to $100. This Samurai pen is $75. So that's a pretty good price for me for something you're never going to have to replace the nib on. You're never going to have to, change out the internals. And then you can always make your own custom pen with that same tip, that same ceramic tip. Roderick at Rants About Tech has done that before, and he made it with a Lamy pen, and he's also done it with another pen. So check out his channel. A lot of really cool stuff. I think that you're definitely going to notice that your handwriting looks more authentic. You're going to notice that it does a better job at showing how you actually write in the moment. If you need Android, the Supernote is not the device for you. It's just not going to be. You can sideload apps, which I think is a good thing now. The A6X2 has allowed that. So does the A5X, but it doesn't handle it very well. I think because it's older, it's the older generation. Kindle works very well on there. Kobo, not so much. The Nook app does work. Libby, I cannot get to work, but on the A6X2, all of those work very well. Actually, the Nook app from Barnes and Noble is probably the best besides the Kindle, and maybe even better than the Kindle. It's just a really good implementation of how that works. It's not the right device for everybody. It's like if you want something that's truly stripped down, distraction free, you can pick up and treat just like a pad of paper. This may even be a little too complex versus something like Remarkable. I think they don't want to go through Okay, two things. I think one's a philosophy. I really don't want full Google Play on this device. As I've mentioned before, I don't need it. Quite frankly, this device already does everything I need it to do. Everything extra that it does is icing on the cake for me. So when they added the ability to sideload, that just made the reading experience that much better for me. I could already here in the States send a Kindle from Libby. So I was able to uh, I was able to send my library books directly to my Kindle and read those there. But now that I have the Libby app sideloaded, I can read them natively in Libby as well. And so, especially for those who are overseas or who are outside the United States who can't use Send to Kindle, that was a great feature to have. If you live in the Kobo ecosystem, which I have a Kobo and I have Kindle books, I can now read both of those on my device. For those who like co-reader, not a huge fan myself just because the interface is clunky to me, but again, that's a personal preference. Now that works on here. Nook, Barnes and Noble. So those are the reasons I think that it's really interesting and really good. The choices they're making, that you get to pick what you sideload and what you don't sideload, but without having to go through the full Google experience. Yes, it takes a little bit more time. I do hope they at least get it to where APK files self-extract. It's a little bit of a process right now to go to APK Mirror or another site, download the APK, and then upload it. But it really isn't that bad once you get used to it. Once you install the tools, it works pretty seamlessly. There are a lot of use cases. I use the embedded calendar in the system. I use the to do list, which I didn't think I would use because I use Google and I link my calendar to Google, and it works really good. And it's not throwing any shade. It's not saying anything negative about the other devices. It's really not. Uh, they just don't fit the way I engage with the technology. And since I've added Obsidian into the mix and the plugin from Supernote to that, it makes it really easy to take handwritten text that's automatically being recognized in the background, turn that into a digital format in Obsidian, and then make connections with links to all of the things that I'm managing and interacting with on a daily basis. And I kind of came back to it. And I think the reason I came back to it is because this idea, when I'm talking about trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, this channel isn't just about the Supernote. It's not just about, um, using one piece of technology. It's about an intentional way to use different types of technology to make yourself more productive and keep yourself more organized. And part of that came back to my blog. And so this morning I put out one on artificial intelligence, and I encourage you to go ahead and read that. I've changed my stance a little bit, not substantially, but a bit on how this is implemented because I've seen AI used in some really cool ways recently. And in this, I talk a lot about Conmigo. And for those of you, I did a video a while back on open educational resources and open source products. I mean, I'm broadcasting right now from OBS, which is an open source product with a bunch of open source plugins. And I really find that to be valuable. Developer communities are underrated. And my blog talks about now you have Conmigo entering into the AI space. So they're using the ChatGPT 4 model, but they have a lot of scaffolding up and it's very education centered. So I encourage you read the blog. I also have a blog on the Towards 2000 goal. So please read that, comment, subscribe to the blog. I promise I'm going to try to get more consistent. I'm going to try and get at least 2 posts out a month so that I can really tap into another way of communicating out information and trying to do that. And I do encourage you to check out Conmigo. It is a great tool. For $44 a year, you can, and I get nothing out of this. There's no affiliation or no affiliate links. If you're an educator, it's free to you. So if you're a teacher, it's 100% free. If you are a family, you can spend $44 a year and get it for your entire family. Or an individual, you can spend $44 and get it for a whole year. You can also try it out for just $4 a month. So it's really a cool thing. It really helps in a safe way by not sending your data out, help you to go through and create everything from rubrics to lesson plans to discussion question prompts, quiz questions, all kinds of different things. It's really cool. It's a struggle, but it's also a lot of fun. Again, this is kind of the hobby that I've chosen to do. If I was expecting to make a living off of YouTube, that isn't going to happen with the way I do it. My personal goal is to put out about one main video or piece of content a week. So this will be my piece of content for this week. The piece of content last week was a stream with the E-team, and I suggest you take a look at that. It's now been chaptered out. So to me, it really is a hobby. It's something I enjoy doing. It helps me as a teacher, actually. So the reason YouTube fits in with what I'm doing is that I teach online primarily, but also teach some hybrid courses, and I run a center for teaching and learning. So a lot of what I do here, learning how to use different creation tools, learning about open educational resources and the OBS platform, all of these different things inform what I can do and bring to faculty at the university and also into the classroom with my students. So a lot of it is, making sure that it complements what I'm already doing. And quite frankly, it even complements a little bit with my personal life. My kids are into Discord. They do a lot of different things online. They're gamers. They are into esports. And if you go to Patreon and become a supporter, I also have a Discord channel, and my son Gabriel and my son Corey have been helping me kind of think through what that should be like and and Gabriel's been very involved in helping me set it up because, quite frankly, I had never been on Discord, so I didn't know much about it. And you'll see that he's helped me do that. So again, it's more ways to engage, more things to think about, more tools in your toolkit. I don't think you ever really quit learning, and I think that that's it's a lot of fun. If I didn't enjoy it, if it wasn't fun for me, if it wasn't kind of in that hobby space where if I make a little bit of extra income, that's great. But these videos take hours of work and prep to do. So the return on investment, if it was truly a profit making thing, I'm never going to be um, an MKBHD or that's not going to be. This isn't going to be my primary thing, but it is a great community and I've met some wonderful people through it. Okay, so those of you who have been around my channel for a long time know that I've struggled with this question. I think that, and let me switch back over to the demo view here because I do want to show you something. And I'm working on a video directly related to this at some point. So what you'll see here is I have been again going back and forth with My Deep Guide, the My Daily Organizer, excuse me, from My Deep Guide and Voya. And this is a wonderful planner. Does a lot of things. It's fairly inexpensive. He's already built out next year's and the year after's. It's a great planner. Hyperlinked, does a whole bunch of stuff. It's a large planner, and if you want all of your stuff in one file, it does a great job. I don't prefer to work that way. I also have on here the Get It Done planner, which is by JB Gossinger over at Morning Coach. And JB provides this planner for free. He has a whole system. You can sign up for other things, but you can get the planner for free. Also, very well developed, works really well. The issue to me, you're seeing the same thing on both screens. Now, in order to get this, there's two ways you can do it. You can use it as a PDF. If you use it as a PDF, you have pinch to zoom. You'll see that's not working on either of these devices. What I chose to do to get the full functionality of the Supernote Note apps, which is the tagging, the handwriting conversion, keyword searching, all of these things, the titling, I chose to convert it to a note template, which is something the Supernote does and retains those hyperlinks you saw me just using to navigate. The problem is that you lose that ability to scroll. Now, what you do gain with the Nomad, and you can do this on the A5X as well, is you can turn it. And when you turn it, you get that landscape view. And that gives you a little bit more screen real estate, but not a lot. And you have to write really small, or you have to write, select it, and then shrink it to fit it on the line. And that to me just is not productive. And the same is true now. If you work in the PDF planner, it's much easier to do, again, because you can zoom. So if you don't need those headers, if you don't need the handwriting recognition, if all you need, and you can do keywords, let me go back. You can do keywords on a PDF. You can also do embedded comments and the annotations. So those things you can do on a PDF. So navigation wise, it is easier to do on a PDF. And you can, even on the A5X, sorry, I didn't get down just right, turn that into landscape mode here, which gives you even more real estate to write. And then you can always, again, turn it back. What I find the most effective, and again, most of you who know me know this, is to use the calendar app in the Supernote. And the reason that I like the calendar app so much is because it works and integrates with everything else that I'm trying to do. It's a little bit more legible. You can write on everything but the daily view, which I really hope they fix. You can see any notes that you've created for that day. You can create a new note directly from the calendar. You can see any upcoming meetings that you have. And it just gives you so many tools to be able to use. And when you combine that with the new to-do list, you'll see a bunch of completed items here. When I press on the notebook here, this takes me to that planner. So I even tested the to-do functionality within the planners to see what that would look like when I went to it. And both of those went to JB's, and if you go back, you go back to the to-do list. Let me see if there's one that I had in my deep guide. I may have erased those. Let's look here. Nope, here's my deep guide. So there you go. I have to remember which one I did here. I think it was this one. So there's a good example. This has a little bit more real estate. It's a little bit more legible, especially if you're going to see that's legible, but it's not great. And it's not great because of just the size. So I think the planners are very hard. If you're using them as a PDF, absolutely, you can do that. You can zoom in, zoom out. It's a little bit tedious, but it works if that's how you want to work. Personally, I like to use a combination of the calendar, notes, and the to-do functionality to be able to make that work. And three things I think would make it replace, to me, any other planner out there. One, you integrate the to-do app so that you can see your to-dos or at least access them in one of the blocks on the calendar app. Two, you allow handwriting on the daily view. That way you can pencil something in and go back and add it to your Google Calendar. Or if this is truly a replacement for a paper calendar, you don't have to add it anywhere. You just notate it and it's there. And number three, I really would love to see them add not only creation date, which I think I get why they do that as far as notes you see on that day, but creation date and last access date. To me, that would be a game changer. If I could see the note both on the date I created it and the last time I accessed it, then I could have all of my notes for that day, for the meetings I have, be able to see my meetings next to it, access all of my information, and have that ready to go, and then still create new notes on the fly. My workflow is much more organic. So when I'm creating a to-do, I can circle that, turn that into a to-do item from a note, and you can also circle that same item and turn it into a heading, a keyword, and a link. And so you can do all of these different things with it. Or I take that back. I don't think you can add a link and a to-do at the same time. I think that may be the limitation. I've got a video on it that you can check out, but you can like do a bunch of different things with the same piece of text by selecting it multiple times. And for those of you who aren't familiar, I did a video on this as well, but I'd appreciate any feedback, any comments you have. Uh, and I'm viewing this now as a paid member, but there are a lot of different things that I'm doing with Patreon and with Discord that I think are just hopefully going to add some value. One thing I do want to show you is the library. So if you come in, you'll see there are different things. Um, Here, the blogging with Supernote. I mentioned this earlier in the stream, kind of my process of how I create. Um, I write by hand and put that information into the Supernote, and then I kind of jump out of that and export it as a Word document after it's recognized as text. And then I edit that in Word, and then I eventually move it to the blog. It doesn't take as long as it sounds, but I kind of show you the raw inputs here and how that works. And you can see this is kind of the most recent, one of the recent blogs that I did. I show you what the render looks like and all of the different components and how I kind of brainstorm and think through that. Then I show you what the initial word output looks like. And, it's not perfect. There are things that can be improved, but you could also actually open this on the device and do some of it that way. That's not for me. I'd rather do this in full on Word because I can format it much faster and quicker. But again, some people really want to keep it contained in that ecosystem. And then I jump and show the final copy that is then going to go into Blogger. And that's where you'll see right here, this is what it ended up looking like in Word. And then if you view my blog, you'll see this was the final output. So it's just a way for me to brainstorm, get the ideas in, change it up, be able to focus on what I'm writing, and then go back in and add the details, whether it's hyperlinks or images or different things later, and with the proper tool. The Supernote is not where I'm going to add this AI generated chasing 2000 subscribers image. No, I'm going to go to Copilot or something like that. I'm going to enter that in. The pure writing piece, Supernote, hands down, one of my favorite things because I can just sit there and I can write.